The cameras flashed like gunfire. Each click a bullet aimed at our hearts. I stood there, my hand sweaty in his, my pulse racing as the crowd's murmurs grew into a roar. This was America, 2025, and we were two men daring to love in a country that wanted us invisible. My name is Eli Carter, 22, a barista with dreams bigger than my paycheck. I grew up in a small Ohio town, where different was a dirty word, and I learned early to hide who I was. My mom, a nurse, loved me fiercely but quietly, afraid of what the neighbors might say. My dad left when I was 10, and I've carried that absence like a bruise ever since. I moved to Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, chasing a life where I could breathe freely. But freedom, I learned, comes with a price. He was Caleb Whitaker, 23, the golden boy of a powerful senator. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and a smile that could charm a snake. His father, Senator Richard Whitaker, was the face of family values. A man who built his career on speeches that called people like me an abomination. Caleb was everything I was: privileged, polished, untouchable. Yet, here he was, his fingers laced with mine, standing on a D.C. street as the world watched. It started 6 months ago, in a hole-in-the-wall coffee shop where I worked. The air smelled of burnt espresso and regret, and I was wiping down counters when Caleb walked in. He wore a navy blazer, too formal for a place like this, but his eyes were soft, searching. He ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and lingered at the counter, asking about my day like he actually cared. I didn't know who he was then, just a guy with a smile that made my chest ache. Eli, right, he said, reading my name tag. His voice was warm, like a fireplace in winter. You ever get tired of this place? I laughed, nervous. Every day? You. He grinned, leaning closer. I'm tired of a lot of things. That was the first spark. He came back the next day, and the next, always ordering the same coffee, always staying a little longer. We talked about music, his love for old jazz, my obsession with indie rock. He told me about his political science degree at Georgetown, how he felt trapped in a life planned by someone else. I told him about my sketches, the ones I hid in a notebook under my bed, dreams of being an artist I was too scared to chase. One night, after closing, he waited outside. The street was quiet, the city lights casting shadows on his face. Walk with me, he asked. I should have said no. I knew the risks D.C. wasn't kind to guys like us, not with the rising tide of hate crimes and politicians stoking fear. But his eyes held a promise, and I followed. We walked along the Potomac, the water reflecting the city's glow. He told me about his father, the senator who preached traditional marriage while ignoring his own son. Caleb's voice cracked when he admitted he'd never come out to his family. They'd disown me, he said, but I'm so tired of pretending. I stopped walking, my heart pounding. Then don't, I said, reckless. Be you, with me. He looked at me, his eyes wide, like I'd offered him the world. Then he kissed me, right there under a flickering street lamp, and I forgot how to breathe. It was my first real kiss, the kind that felt like a beginning and an end all at once. For weeks, we were a secret, stolen moments in my cramped apartment, his hands tracing the lines of my sketches, our laughter muffled by the fear of being caught. But secrets have a way of unraveling. A tabloid photographer spotted us at a diner, and the next morning, my phone buzzed with a headline, Senator's son seen with mystery man. My stomach dropped. Caleb called me, his voice tight. We need to talk. We met at a park, hidden by trees. He looked pale, his hands shaking. My father knows, he said. He's furious. Says I'm ruining his campaign. What does that mean for us? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He took my hand, his grip firm. It means I'm done hiding. That's how we ended up here, on this street, facing a swarm of reporters. Caleb had called a press conference. Unscripted, against his father's wishes. I didn't want the Izumi life was private. My fears too raw for the spotlight. But Caleb looked at me, his eyes steady, and said, I need you with me. So I stood there, my hand in his, as he faced the cameras. I'm Caleb Whitaker, he said, his voice clear. And I'm gay. This is Eli, the man I love. I won't let fear or my father dictate my life anymore. The crowd erupted. Some cheering, others shouting slurs. My heart raced, but Caleb's hand anchored me. For the first time, I felt seen, not as a secret or a shame, but as a man who loved and was loved. That moment changed everything. It wasn't just about us, Anna Maria, it was about every kid in every small town, hiding who they were. But the fallout was coming, and it would test us in ways we couldn't imagine. The fallout came faster than a summer storm. By morning, Caleb's face was plastered across every news outlet. His confession a lightning rod for outrage and support. My name was there too, dragged into the chaos. Eli Carter, the barista who seduced the senator's son. I stared at my phone, the words blurring. Seduced. I was just a guy who fell in love. I called in sick to work, my hands trembling as I scrolled through X. Posts ranged from love wins to vile threats that made my stomach churn. Caleb texted me, meet me at my place. We need to figure this out. His Georgetown apartment was a world away from my dingy studio. All sleek furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows. When I arrived, he pulled me into a hug, his breath shaky against my neck. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't think it'd be this bad. It's not your fault, I said, though fear not at me. What's your dad saying? Caleb's face darkened. He wants me to retract it. Say it was a mistake. That I'm confused. He's got a press conference tomorrow to set the record straight. I felt a chill. And you? What do you want? He looked at me, his blue eyes fierce. You. Us. I meant every word I said. We spent the night talking, planning, clinging to each other like survivors in a storm. Caleb's phone buzzed constantly, his father's aides, reporters, even his mother, who hadn't spoken to him in years. Each call tightened the knot in my chest. I wasn't built for this. I was just Eli, the kid who poured coffee and dreamed of art, not a symbol in a culture war. The next morning, we watched Senator Whitaker's press conference on TV. He stood at a podium, his face a mask of calm authority. My son is young, he said, his voice smooth as polished stone. He's been influenced by certain individuals, but he's seeking help. Our family stands for unity, for tradition. I felt like I'd been slapped. Caleb's jaw clenched, his hand crushing mine. Influenced, he muttered. He's calling me brainwashed. What now? I asked, my voice small. Caleb stood, pacing. I need to respond. Publicly. I can't let him control the narrative. I wanted to beg him to stop, to keep us safe in the shadows. But I saw the fire in his eyes, the same fire that made me love him. Okay, I said, but we do this together. We crafted a statement, posting it on X from Caleb's account. I'm not confused. I'm gay, and I love Eli Carter. My father's words don't define me. Within minutes, it went viral. Support poured in, but so did hate-death threats, slurs, calls to fix us. My boss texted me, "You're fired." Too much drama. My heart sank. The coffee shop was my lifeline. My rent money. Now what? Caleb saw my face and pulled me close. I'll take care of you, he said. We'll figure it out. But I didn't want to be taken care of. I wanted my life back. That night, I went home to my apartment. The walls thin enough to hear my neighbor's TV. I pulled out my sketchbook, drawing Caleb's face, his sharp jaw, his defiant eyes. Art was my escape, but even that felt fragile now. The next day, Caleb got a call from a local LGBTQ+ advocacy group. They wanted us to speak at a rally, to turn our story into a movement. I hesitated. I'm not a speaker, I said. I'm not like you. You're stronger than you think, Caleb said, his hand on my cheek. You stood with me in front of those cameras. You can do this. The rally was in a park near the Capitol, a sea of rainbow flags and hopeful faces. I stood backstage, my stomach in knots, watching Caleb charm the crowd. He spoke of love, of fighting fear, his voice steady despite the hecklers at the edges. When it was my turn, my knees shook, but I stepped to the mic. I'm Eli, I said, my voice cracking. I'm just a guy who loves another guy, and I'm tired of being told that's wrong. The crowd cheered, and for a moment, I felt invincible. But as we left the stage, a man in a red cap lunged forward, his fist raised. Caleb shoved me behind him, taking the blow to his shoulder. Security tackled the guy, but the damage was done. Caleb's face was pale, his blazer torn. You okay? He asked me, ignoring his own pain. I nodded, but I wasn't. The world was watching, and it hated us. The bruise on Caleb's shoulder bloomed purple by morning, a stark reminder of the rally's chaos. We sat in his apartment, the TV muted but flashing images of Uzmi's terrified face, his protective stance. The headlines were brutal: Senator's son attacked at gay rally. I couldn't look away, each word twisting the knife in my gut. I'm sorry, I said, my voice hoarse. This is because of me. Caleb grabbed my hand, his grip fierce. Don't you dare. This is on them, not you. But guilt gnawed at me. I'd lost my job, my privacy, my sense of safety. Caleb had his trust fund. His connection should survive this. Me. I was drowning. My landlord had already left a voicemail about unwanted attention at the building. I hadn't told Caleb yet. I couldn't bear his pity. He insisted we meet with the advocacy group again. They want to help, he said. Legal support. Maybe a job for you. I agreed, mostly to stop his worrying. The group's office was a cramped space downtown, walls covered in posters about equality and pride. Sarah, the director, was a wiry woman in her 40s with a handshake like iron. You too are lightning rods, she said, not unkindly. But that's power. You're giving kids hope. I didn't feel powerful. I felt exposed, like a nerve under a dentist's drill. But Sarah offered me a part-time job, graphic design for their campaigns. It wasn't much, but it was something. You're an artist, right? She said, glancing at my sketchbook. I nodded, surprised she'd noticed. That night, Caleb and I celebrated quietly. Take-out pizza on his couch. He traced the lines of my latest sketch, a silhouette of us at the rally. Hands clasped. You're incredible, he said, his voice soft. You know that. I blushed, and used to praise. I'm just trying to keep up with you. But the quiet didn't last. Senator Whitaker escalated his campaign, releasing a statement calling Caleb misguided and blaming radical groups for exploiting him. Caleb's phone rang off the hook: family, friends, distant relatives, all urging him to back down. His mother called, her voice cold. You're breaking your father's heart." Caleb hung up, his face ashen. "They don't know me," he said. "They never did." I wanted to fix it, to take away his pain. But all I could do was hold him. We fell asleep tangled together. The city's hum outside, a reminder of the world waiting to tear us apart. The next week, Sarah asked us to join a panel at a community center, a smaller event to share our story. I was reluctant, still shaken from the rally. But Caleb was all in. "We can't stop now," he said. "If we hide, they win." The panel was in a fluorescent-lit room, maybe 50 people in folding chairs. I spoke haltingly, sharing how I'd spent years hiding, how Caleb's courage gave me mine. The audience was kind, mostly queer kids and allies, their eyes wide with hope. One girl, maybe 16, approached me after. "I came out to my mom because of you," she said, tears in her eyes. I froze, overwhelmed. Me, a nobody, had done that. But as we left, a group of protesters waited outside, their signs screaming "Sinners repent." One threw a bottle, missing us by inches. Caleb pulled me away, his jaw tight. "We need to be smarter," he said later. Back at his place. "More security. Maybe a lawyer." I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. That girl's face. Her tears, they stuck with me. For the first time, I saw what Caleb meant about fighting for more than just us. But the cost was steep. My mom called that night, her voice trembling. "Eli, I saw the news. Are you safe?" "I'm trying," I said, my throat tight. I didn't tell her about the job loss, the threats, the bottle. I couldn't. The next day, Caleb got an email from his father's campaign manager, "Meet with the senator." Alone. Caleb showed it to me, his eyes hard. "He wants to intimidate me," he said. "But I'm not going without you." I swallowed my fear. "Then let's face him together." The senator's office was a fortress of mahogany and power. Portraits of past Whitakers staring down from the walls. Caleb and I sat across from Senator Richard Whitaker, his face a mask of controlled fury. He was in his 50s, silver hair slicked back, his suit screaming wealth. The air felt heavy, like a storm about to break. "Caleb," he began, ignoring me. "This has gone far enough. You're throwing away your future." Caleb's hand found mine under the table, his voice steady. "My future is my choice, not yours." The senator's eyes flicked to me, cold and sharp. "And you, Mr. Carter, do you understand the damage you're causing my son?" I wanted to shrink, to disappear, but Caleb's grip anchored me. "I love him," I said, my voice shaking but clear. "That's not damage." The senator leaned back, his laugh bitter. "Love. This is a phase, a rebellion. You're dragging my son into your lifestyle." Caleb stood, his chair scraping. "It's not a lifestyle. It's who I am. And if you can't accept that, you're the one losing me." We left, the senator's silence louder than any shout. Outside, Caleb was trembling, his bravado gone. I thought he'd at least try to understand. He whispered. I pulled him close, my heart aching. He might. Give him time. But time wasn't on our side. The senator doubled down. His campaign ads now featuring tearful parents warning against dangerous influences. My face was in those ads. Pixelated but unmistakable. I stopped going outside alone. The threats on X growing darker. Caleb hired a security guard, a burly guy named Mike who shadowed us everywhere. It felt like a cage, but I couldn't argue. Sarah's advocacy group kept us busy, channeling our story into fundraisers and interviews. I threw myself into the design work, creating posters that screamed hope and defiance. 1. A sketch of two hands clasped against a rainbow flag. Went viral. "You're a natural," Sarah said, clapping my shoulder. It was the first time I felt like more than a victim. But the pressure was crushing Caleb. He smiled for the cameras. But at night, he'd stare at the ceiling, his eyes distant. "I'm ruining your life," he said one night, his voice raw. "You'd be safer without me." "Don't say that," I snapped, fear making me sharp. "You're the only thing keeping me going." He kissed me then, desperate and fierce, like he was trying to hold on to us. I wanted to believe we were enough, but the world was relentless. A week later, we got a tip. A far-right group was planning a protest at our next event, a youth pride festival. Sarah wanted to cancel, but Caleb refused. "They want us scared," he said. "We show up anyway." The festival was in a.d.c. park, colorful booths and music battling the tension in the air. We spoke on a small stage. Our words about love and resilience met with cheers and jeers from the protesters beyond the barricades. Mike stayed close, his eyes scanning the crowd. I noticed a man in a black hoodie, his face half covered, slipping through the crowd. My gut twisted. "Caleb," I whispered, grabbing his arm. "Something's wrong." Before he could respond, the man lunged, a knife glinting in his hand. Mike tackled him, but not before the blade grazed Caleb's arm. Blood stained his sleeve, and I froze. My scream caught in my throat. Security swarmed. The crowd panicked, and I pulled Caleb behind a booth, my hands shaking as I pressed my jacket against his wound. "I'm okay," he gasped, his face pale. "Eli, I'm okay." But he wasn't. None of us were. The paramedics came, bandaging Caleb's arm as police arrested the attacker. The festival ended early. The joy snuffed out. That night, in the hospital, Caleb held my hand, his eyes fierce despite the pain. "We can't stop," he said. "Not now." I nodded. But inside, I was breaking. How much more could we take? The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Caleb's arm was stitched, his face pale against the white pillow. I sat beside him, my sketchbook open but untouched, my hands too shaky to draw. The news was already spinning the attack, senator's son targeted at radical event. They didn't mention the knife, the blood, or the terror in Caleb's eyes. "You should go home," he said, his voice weak. "Get some rest." "Not leaving you," I said, stubborn. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. When he was discharged, we went to my apartment, avoiding his place to dodge reporters. Mike, our security guard, swept the building first, his presence a grim necessity. Inside, Caleb sank onto my couch, his bravado gone. "I didn't think it'd get this bad," he admitted. "I thought maybe I could change things." "You are," I said, kneeling beside him. "That girl at the panel, the kids at the Festival Thierry seeing us. They're braver because of you." He shook his head. "At what cost?" "Eli, you're not safe." "I'm not safe." I didn't have an answer. Instead, I kissed him, soft and slow, trying to pour all my hope into it. We fell asleep on the couch, tangled together. The world locked out for a few hours. The next morning, Sarah called. "We're suing the group behind the attack," she said, "and we want you both to testify." My stomach dropped. A courtroom meant more exposure, more hate. But Caleb was already nodding. "We'll do it," he said, before I could protest. The lawsuit was high profile, a battle against a group called Patriot Watch, known for targeting queer events. Our lawyer, a sharp woman named Lena, prepped us for days. They'll try to paint you as agitators. She warned. Stay calm. Tell the truth. The trial was in A.D.C. courthouse. The room packed with reporters and spectators. I took the stand first, my voice shaking as I recounted the festival, the knife, the fear. The defense attorney was brutal, twisting my words. So, Mr. Carter, you chose to attend a controversial event, knowing the risks. I chose to stand with the man I love, I said, my eyes on Caleb. The room went quiet, and I saw a flicker of pride in his face. Caleb's testimony was electric. He spoke of his father's rejection, the threats, the attack, his voice never wavering. I won't hide who I am, he said. Not for my father. Not for anyone. The jury was out for 2 days. We waited in a hotel, avoiding the media circus. Caleb was restless, pacing, while I sketched to calm my nervous a portrait of him, his eyes fierce and hopeful. When the verdict came, it was a win. Patriot Watch was found liable, ordered to pay damages and disband their local chapter. The courtroom cheered, but I felt hollow. A win didn't erase the scars. That night, Caleb got a text from his sister, Emily, the only family member still speaking to him. Dad's losing ground in the polls. She wrote, he blames you. Caleb stared at the screen, his face unreadable. Maybe he's right, he said. Maybe I'm tearing everything down. You're building something better, I said. Fierce. For us. For everyone. He kissed me, his hands cupping my face. I don't deserve you, he whispered. The victory was short-lived. Senator Whitaker announced a new campaign push, doubling down on protecting American values. His ads featured Caleb's childhood photos, a narrative of a lost son corrupted by outsiders. My face was there too, the villain in his story. I wanted to scream, to fight back. But Caleb was one step ahead. We go bigger, he said. A national campaign. Interviews. Rallies. The works. I stared at him, my heart racing. Caleb, we're barely holding on. He took my hands, his eyes burning. We're not just surviving, Eli. We're fighting for a world where we don't have to. I nodded, terrified but all in. Because that's what love does, it makes you brave, even when you're breaking. The national campaign was a whirlwind. Sarah's group connected us with a media team. And suddenly, we were on morning shows, podcasts, even a late-night talk show with a host who cracked jokes but looked at us with genuine respect. Caleb was a natural, his charm disarming even the toughest interviewers. I was quieter. My sketches now part of our story shared online, printed on rally signs, a symbol of our fight. But every step forward came with a blow. My mom called, her voice tight. People are talking. Eli. They spray-painted fag on our garage. I felt sick, picturing her scrubbing hate off our old Ohio house. Come home, she begged. It's safer. I can't, I said, my throat tight. This is bigger than me now. Caleb's family was worse. His father disowned him publicly, a press release calling him estranged. His mother sent a letter, formal and cold, urging him to seek help. Only Emily, his sister, stayed in touch, sneaking calls to check on him. I'm proud of you, she told him once, her voice breaking. But I'm scared. We were all scared. Mike, our security guard, was now a constant shadow, his eyes scanning every crowd. The threats on X didn't stop photos of us doctored with nooses. Addresses leaked. I stopped checking my phone. But Caleb read every word, his jaw tight. They want us to quit. He said. We won't. Our biggest event was a march in New York City. Thousands strong. Rainbow flags waving like a sea. We led the crowd. Hand in hand. My heart pounding with pride and fear. Caleb spoke at the end. His voice booming over Times Square. Love isn't a crime. It's a right. The crowd roared. But I saw the counter-protesters. Their signs venomous. Mike pulled us away before trouble started. Back at our hotel, Caleb was quiet, staring out at the city lights. What if we're making it worse? He asked. What if all this just fuels the hate? I took his hand, my voice steady. We're showing people they're not alone. That's worth it. He kissed me, slow and deep. And for a moment, it was just us. But the world crept back in. A news alert pinged. Senator Whitaker was gaining in the polls. His family values message resonating with voters. Caleb's face fell, and I hated his father for breaking him again. We pushed on, traveling to Chicago, Atlanta, San Francisco. Each city brought new faces, queer kids, parents, allies who saw us as hope. A trans teen in Chicago gave me a drawing, a shaky sketch of two men holding hands. It's you and Caleb, they said. Shy. I nearly cried, tucking it into my sketchbook. But the toll was heavy. I was exhausted. My designs rushed. My sleep plagued by nightmares of knives and crowds. Caleb was fraying too. His smiles forced. His temper short. One night in Atlanta, we fought our first real fight. You don't get it, Eli. He snapped. You can walk away. I can't. This is my family's legacy. Walk away, I shouted. I've lost everything for this for you. He froze, his eyes wide. I'm sorry, he whispered, pulling me close. I'm so sorry. We made up, but the cracks were there. The campaign was saving others, but breaking us. In San Francisco, a reporter asked if we'd marry someday. Caleb smiled, squeezing my hand. Maybe, he said, but his eyes were uncertain. Back in D.C., Sarah had news. A major network wanted a documentary about us. This could change the narrative, she said. Show the world who you really are. I hesitated, but Caleb was all in. Let's do it, he said. Let's tell our story. Filming started the next week. Cameras following us everywhere. I hated the intrusion, but I saw the potential, a chance to humanize us. To show love, not scandal. We filmed in my apartment. My sketches spread out. Caleb laughing as he described our first kiss. For a moment, it felt like we were winning. But then, a leak. Someone sent the senator raw footage, twisted to paint us as reckless activists. He used it in a new ad, calling us pawns of a dangerous agenda. The backlash was swift. More threats, more hate. I looked at Caleb, his face pale, and wondered how much more we could take. The documentary aired to millions, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like a victory. Clips of us laughing, holding hands. My sketches filling the screen. It was raw, real, human. X lit up with support. Hashtags like Eli and Caleb trending alongside messages from kids saying we gave them courage. But the hate was louder. A tidal wave of venom that crashed over us. Caleb's father struck back hard. A new campaign ad featured him at a church, preaching about saving his son. Caleb is lost, he said, his voice dripping with faux sorrow. But we can bring him home. My face was there too. The corrupting influence. I wanted to scream, but Caleb just turned off the TV, his hands shaking. We need to respond, he said, his voice low. One last push before the election. I was exhausted, my body heavy with months of fear and fight. But I saw the fire in his eyes. The same fire that pulled me into this. What's the plan? I asked. A speech, he said. At the Lincoln Memorial. We'll call out his lies. Show the world who we are. The idea terrified me. The Lincoln Memorial was iconic. Exposed. A magnet for trouble. But Caleb was resolute. And Sarah's team jumped in. Organizing security. Permits. A crowd. Mike doubled his team. His face grim as he briefed us on risks. Stay close to me, he said. Always. The day of the speech was crisp. The monument steps packed with supporters and protesters. Rainbow flags clashed with signs screaming God hates sin. I stood backstage, my stomach churning. My sketchbook clutched like a lifeline. Caleb squeezed my hand. We've got this, he said, but his eyes were nervous. He took the stage, his voice steady despite the hecklers. My father says I'm lost, he began. But I'm not. I'm here, with the man I love, fighting for a world where no one has to hide. The crowd cheered, drowning out the hate. I stepped up beside him, my heart pounding, and spoke about fear, about love, about the kids who needed us to keep going. The speech went viral. Clips shared across the globe. For a moment, it felt like we'd won something bigger than ourselves. But as we left the stage, a rock sailed from the crowd, striking Caleb's temple. Blood trickled down his face, and I caught him as he stumbled. Mike and his team rushing in. The hospital was a blur stitches. Scans. Caleb's hand gripping mine. I'm okay, he kept saying. But I saw the fear in his eyes. That night, in his apartment, he broke down, sobbing into my chest. I don't know if I can keep doing this, he whispered. I held him, my own tears falling. Then we stop, I said. We live quietly. Just us. He shook his head. I can't give up. Not yet. The election was days away, and Senator Whitaker's campaign was faltering, his polls slipping as Caleb's speech gained traction. Emily called, her voice hopeful. You're making a difference, she said. He's losing ground. But the cost was unbearable. My mom flew to D.C., her face lined with worry. I'm proud of you, she said, hugging me. But I'm so scared. I didn't tell her about the rock, the blood, the nightmares. I just held her, promising I'd be okay. Sarah pushed for one final event, a vigil for queer youth. A quieter moment to heal. We agreed, hoping for peace. The vigil was in a small D.C. park. Candles flickering in the dusk. Kids shared their stories, their voices trembling but strong. I sketched the scene, my pencil capturing their hope, their pain. As we lit candles, a man approached, his face kind. You're Eli? Right, he said. I'm a gallery owner. Your sketch is theory powerful. Ever thought about a show? I blinked, stunned. No, I'm just a barista. He smiled. You're an artist. Think about it. Caleb overheard, his eyes lighting up. Eli, this is huge, he said later, his voice soft. You could do this. For real. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of something other than fear, hope. Maybe. But as we left the vigil, a car slowed beside us, a window rolling down. My heart stopped, expecting a weapon. Instead, a voice called out, You're not alone. It was a kid, maybe 17, their face lit with gratitude. Caleb smiled, squeezing my hand. This is why we keep going. The election night was a crucible, the air thick with tension. We watched the results in Sarah's office, the TV flickering with polls and pundits. Senator Whitaker's face flashed on screen, his smile tight as his lead shrank. Caleb sat beside me, his hand in mine, his knee bouncing. He might lose, he whispered, half hopeful, half afraid. I wanted to believe it would end there, that a loss would quiet the storm. But I knew better. Our fight wasn't just about one man, it was about a country wrestling with its soul. The vigil had given us a moment of peace, but the gallery owner's offer lingered in my mind, a lifeline to a life beyond this chaos. The results came in late. Senator Whitaker lost, narrowly, to a moderate who'd stayed silent on our story. The room erupted in cheers, Sarah hugging us both. Caleb's eyes were wet, his shoulders sagging with relief. "It's over," he said, but I heard the question in his voice. It wasn't over. The senator's concession speech was venomous, blaming radical agendas for his defeat. He never mentioned Caleb, but the message was clear. X exploded with reactions, some celebrating, others vowing revenge. We were still targets, still symbols. The next week, I met the gallery owner, David, at his small D.C. space. He flipped through my sketchbook, his eyes lighting up. "These tell a story," he said. "Pain, love, defiance. People need to see this." I hesitated, fear creeping in. What if it makes things worse? He leaned forward, his voice kind. "Art doesn't just reflect the world, it changes it." Caleb pushed me to say yes, his belief in me stronger than my own. "This is your dream, Eli," he said. "Don't let fear steal it." The gallery show was set for spring, my sketches framed alongside photos of Usmaments from the rally. The vigil, our hands clasped. Planning it gave me purpose, a way to channel the chaos into something beautiful. Caleb helped, his charm winning over donors, his smile brighter than it had been in months. But the threats didn't stop. Mike stayed close, his presence a reminder of our reality. One night, a brick crashed through my apartment window, a note taped to it, "Leave or die." Caleb wanted to go public, to call out the hate, but I stopped him. "No more speeches," I said. "Let's just live." He looked at me, his eyes searching. "Can we? After all this?" I took his hand, my voice steady. "We can try." We moved to a new apartment, a quiet place outside D.C. Our names off the lease for safety. It wasn't perfect, nightmares woke us, and Mike still checked in, but it was ours. I painted, my canvases now bold with color, telling our story in strokes of defiance and love. Caleb started writing, a memoir of his journey, his words raw and honest. The gallery show was a quiet triumph. Hundreds came, their faces a mix of awe and tears. A queer couple, older, thanked us, their hands clasped like ours. A kid, maybe 15, hugged me, whispering, "You made me believe I could be me." Caleb stood beside me, his arm around my waist, his smile real for the first time in months. "We did this," he said, his voice soft. "Together." That night, we stood on our balcony, the city lights distant but warm. "I'd do it all again," Caleb said, his hand finding mine. "Every camera, every fight, just to be here with you." I kissed him, my heart full. "Me too." We weren't naive, the hate was still out there, the world still sharp-edged. But we'd carved out a space, small and fierce, where love won. And as Caleb held my hand, I knew we'd keep fighting, not just for us, but for every kid who needed to see that love could be louder than hate.